Here is a chart. This is a Google chart of interactions of organizations that are involved in the Human Genome Project. A lot of even more complicated. But it reminds us actually that in financial markets, we all know that we can't explain how these operate. We all know that if you were to make a single change in, say, increase the price of crude oil or charge a White House aide with a felony, you couldn't be sure exactly how the financial system would react. Nobody knows that. In fact, here's one of my... This is the New York Times, authoritative, and it's saying to us that we can't even be sure one of the primary qualities of our own economic system, whether productivity is going up or down. Now, if we can't even understand the basic aspects of our own systems, what makes anybody think that we can understand natural systems that are thousands of times more complicated? Because they are. Let's take a little tour of natural complexity. Here's a sequence of chemical changes, the ATP cascade, which produces energy within the cell. It's sometimes called the Krebs cycle. As you can see, one chemical chain reaction in one cell is more complicated than that original diagram. Here is the mitochondria in which these chemical reactions take place. This is an electron micrograph from my old teacher, Don Fawcett at Harvard. Here is a cutaway view of the structure of the mitochondrion, which some of you may know is a cell that has been included within the cell and respecialized, blah, blah, blah. This is the organelle that makes energy. Here is an electron micrograph of heart muscle, important to all of us, and these are the mitochondria packed within in between the muscle cells, so important for our heart. Heart pumps blood, and inside the red cells there is a molecule, hemoglobin, which, as you see, is far more complicated than the original drawing that showed us everything in the world. A single molecule in a single cell is more complicated than that drawing of the whole world. Here's another view of the hemoglobin molecule to make that point again. Heart pumps these red cells, and how it does it, it's driven by an electrical stimulus. It spreads across the muscle in a very complex way, a way that is now understood with the help of complexity theory. Let me see if I can make this work. This is a study from Duke University showing how the electrical impulses spreads across cardiac muscle. It's 5 years old, so it's hardly cutting edge. And my point is that this kind of understanding of natural processes is precisely what has been missing from environmental thought. 30 years after complexity theory has become of groundbreaking importance in all sciences, I think it's time for environmentalism to catch up. Stop worrying about decarbonization, which is taking care of itself, and start worrying about Yellowstone, which isn't. So, what happened at Yellowstone? I would say somebody really believed that the world operated like this, and they acted on that belief. Kill the wolves, save the elk. Move the grizzlies, avoid the lawyers, and so on and so on. It's this kind of thinking that has to go. But I'm afraid we haven't learned that lesson. We're still killing animals to save other animals. This is an article talking about how wonderful it is that the wolves have been brought back after they were all killed. And for that matter, who believes that the complex system of the atmosphere behaves in such a simple way that if we reduce one component, namely carbon dioxide, we will reduce temperature? Carbon dioxide is not like the accelerator of a car. It's not linear. And by the way, neither is a car accelerator. But who believes that the climate can be stabilized when it's never been stable in the entire Earth's history? We can only have such an idea about stabilization if we don't understand what a complex system really is. And if we don't, we're like the blonde who returned the scarf because it was too tight. I'm sorry, my wife is blonde and my daughter's blonde. I have to stand up for them. A lawyer gets on an airplane and finds himself seated next to this incredibly beautiful blonde. And he wants to engage her in conversation. She's about to take a nap. So he says, I'll tell you what, we'll play a game, and I'll ask you a question, and if you can guess the answer, I pay you $5, and if you can't guess it, you pay me $5. She shakes her head and turns over to go to sleep. He says, okay, if I ask you a question you don't know, you pay me $5, but if you ask me a question and I don't know, I'll pay you $500. She wakes up. She turns around. So his first question is, what is the capital of Arkansas? The blonde thinks for a minute, hands him $5. He says, okay, now you go. She says, what goes up the hill on 3 legs and comes down on 4 legs? He goes, He racks his brain. He flips open his laptop. He gets on Google. He checks. He looks. He's stymied. He can't do it. He gives her $500. And then he says, well, what's the answer? She gives him $5. Two of my sisters are lawyers, and one of them is here tonight, but I can't. It's too difficult a problem to resuscitate lawyers. Fortunately, we can learn to manage complex systems. There are people who have studied it, and they know how to do it. But it takes humility. And I would add, along with humility, that managing complex systems also takes something else that's very, very important, which is the ability to admit we're wrong and to change course. If you manage a complex system frequently, you are frequently, if not always, wrong. You have to backtrack. You have to acknowledge error. You've probably learned that with your children, or if you don't have children, with your bosses. And one final thing, we have to not be afraid. Fear may generate a television audience. It may generate cash for an advocacy group. But fear paralyzes us. It freezes us. And we need to put that behind us as we move into a new era of managing complexity. Because look, this is from The Independent in England. Is this the end of the world? Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods. What is happening to our planet? Is this the end of the world? No. We live on an incredibly active planet. Earthquakes are continuous, 1.5 million a year, 3 every minute. This is all the earthquakes that occurred in the state of California and Nevada in the last 7 days. We have a Richter 5 earthquake every 6 hours, a major earthquake every 3 weeks. We have a quake the size of Pakistan, this is in Japan, every 8 months. We have 11 lightning strikes on the planet every second. We have 1,500 electrical storms on the planet at any moment. A tornado touches down every 6 hours. A tsunami crosses the Pacific every 3 months. We have 90 hurricanes a year, 1 every 4 days. It's constant. Is this the end of the world? No. This is the world. And I say it's time we knew it. Thank you very much.